Welcome to Thursday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We are live here on Giants.com to take your comments and your questions for the next hour to talk New York Giants football. They will be taking on the Washington Commanders, a team that they lost to in Week 2 when kicker Graham Gano got hurt on the opening kickoff, and they did not have a kicker that day and fell 21-18 to the Commanders. Since then, the Commanders have done some better things with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, and the Giants have fallen to 2-6. In any event, as a reminder, if you're not watching the show live or listening live, you can always catch an archive of this program and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. All right. The Giants coordinators have a media avail literally as we speak. Michael Golbriol, the special teams coordinator, has already spoken. Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, was in the middle of his conference. Mike Kafka will be coming up next. But to briefly give you an idea of where the Giants stand right now with the first two coordinators, Michael Golbriol obviously explained you don't want to have a punt return for a touchdown. I mean, we're not going to pull any punches on that. That's not what they expect. That's not what they want. But he did say there's a combination of things that are involved when something like that happens, and you've got to go back, obviously, and try to fix them. There's a hang time issue, there's a distance issue, and then there's also the fits and the lanes that the punt team try to spread out and cover. Now, I will tell you this, and I don't know if any of the other guys during the shows earlier this week covered this, but I'll mention this to you only because I did extensive work on that play as I went back and looked at it many, many times. Brian Dable had said, the head coach, that there was an outkicking of the coverage by Matt Hawk, the punter. Look, I'm not even going to get into the fact that the Steelers rusher who got shoved by Tamon Fox, but then gained his balance and hurled himself horizontally into Hawk's legs. I won't even go there because you can't cry over spilled milk. I think it's pretty obvious to 99% of the people who saw the play what happened, but the 1% of the people who did not see it that way decided that there was not going to be a penalty flag on the play. Okay, push that aside. You had an opportunity against Austin for Bryce Ford-Wheaton, who was the first guy down in coverage and absolutely had an opportunity to make the tackle. He has been a really good special teams player for this team. Somehow on this night, when he had the chance to knock Austin down, he let him get away. So you had a missed tackle there. The next part, as Austin turns the corner and gets up the sideline, it looked to me like linebacker Patrick Johnson, who was down the right seam of the punt team, did not take a quick enough turn and an angle to cut off Austin at the sideline. He got caught coming too hard, too fast, too far, and too deep. And by the time he tried to turn the corner, as Austin was turning the corner, it was already too late. Austin had blown by him. I saw a tremendous effort by Dane Belton, who actually came from further on the other side of the field and raced like a motorcycle, trailing the play, trying to catch Austin from behind, and actually appeared to get his fingertips on him or a hand on him, but was unable to bring him down. Herculean effort by Dane Belton on that play to try to prevent a bigger play than what was. And then, of course, finally, Austin's able to escape, and once he got out of the gate, it was all over. He was gone for the touchdown. So Michael Golbriol explaining, again, there are a lot of factors involved in having a play like that bust out against you. Otherwise, he did say that Smith Morissette, Amir, his first name, who's been doing a really nice job on returns, been very pleased with him. Now, he's a bit nicked up right now, and it ought to be interesting to see over the next couple of days if he's able to practice. But he had a big 47-yard kickoff return that he took 2 yards deep in the Giants' end zone and got them out to near midfield following the Steelers' touchdown. and gave the offense a huge boost by tilting the field. And the Giants went down and scored. If you recall, a few plays later, Tyrone Tracy ran 45 yards for pay dirt. That's big. And Coach Gabriel was saying how happy he was for Smith Morset because he really respects him, likes him, he's smart, he knows what he's doing, he's making good decisions, works hard, has an understanding of the game, and he said he was really happy to see him break off an explosive play like that, which, again, wound up leading to a short field and a Giants touchdown. All right, that's it on special teams. This morning, what did we learn from Shane Bowen? It's very clear. He said in the passing game against Pittsburgh, they lost too many man-on-man matchups, and Pittsburgh was able to make those plays. Let's face it, their receivers are very talented, and they don't drop passes. That last part is my part, not Coach Bowen's. The other thing he said was, against the run, too many missed tackles, and he said it just seems as though there are like 5 plays every week where they're giving up chunk runs because of missed tackles, and that obviously has to stop. No secret there either. He did say it was a staff decision in terms of taking Tay Banks out of the lineup near the end of the first half. Would not go into any detail other than to say he has seen him bounce back before, like he did against DK Metcalf and virtually shut him down in Seattle. And he believes that you'll see that from Banks again this week. He said Banks had a really good day of practice already. He's locked in and he's focused, and he has complete confidence in him that he will be ready to go against the Commanders. So that is what we got from at least the first 2 coordinators before the show started. Mike Kafka's out there right now. Don't have anything I can give you because obviously I'm in here speaking with you folks. If you'd like to call us, it's 201-939-4513. And we will go right to the phones. And Wilson from Roxbury, you are first on the program. Hello.
Paulie, how are you? You're going solo today, huh?
Well, at least for the time being. We've got some other things going on here right now. And so, yes, I am solo. But, you know, I've been doing this a long time, Wilson. It's not like I need somebody to hold my hand.
Paulie, I'm sure you can. Paulie, listen. You're not going to like anything of what I say, but I know you're cool with me, so here we go.
Yeah, that's all right. As long as you keep it factual, Wilson. Just keep it factual.
No, this is factual, Paul.
Okay.
Sometimes I go a little off the rail, but this is factual.
Okay, go ahead.
Did Daniel Jones
yes.
getting blamed for everything? It's getting old quickly. Yep. Okay. Now, everybody blames Daniel Jones, and nobody holds his head coach accountable for anything. He's 9-27. You know, remember Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are? He's 9-27. Okay? He's got guys quitting on the field. Guys fighting
Wilson,
on the sideline.
Hold on. He won 9 games his rookie season. How can he have a coaching record of 9-27?
His last 35 games.
Oh, well, all right. See, now, I don't know. You didn't say that, though, so I had to stop you. I had to stop you because you did not clarify.
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. And that may or may not be right. I don't know. I'll trust you at the moment.
Maybe I'm off by a game or 2, but his record is horrendous. But forget about that. Okay? I want to ask something. You know what the definition of insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over and over.
When you don't get results.
The same result.
Correct.
Okay. So when you do over and over, and you get the same result, it's got to be some alternative motive to all this. And I think his alternative motive is that Daniel Jones is his scapegoat. He's got Daniel Jones as his scapegoat because he's going to say at the end of the year, hey, I didn't want him, and it's nothing is my fault. In Giants fans, man, that we've been watching this team for 45 years, we know a little football. I'm not like a complete moron. I see what I see on the field. Okay, Paulie, it's Daniel Jones' fault that Malik Neighbors drops a slant, that if he catches it, he's still running.
I know.
It's Daniel Jones' fault that on the punt return for a touchdown, They gave a half effort. Half. I mean, you can see it.
Well,
Then the
I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Defense gets guys 10 yards a pop. I mean, but hey, Daniel Jones missed a throw. Daniel Jones threw the interception. The guy got hit every time he threw the ball. Another quarterback would have been out of the game. Look, I'm not. I like Daniel. I like Daniel. You know, I like Daniel. I think he's still. Daniel's gonna leave here, and he's gonna become a Pro Bowler, and we all gonna say, "What the hell did we do?" Because you can see it coming. You can see it coming. Okay. Everybody says he's been here for 3 years, for 6 years. Fully, 2 years were those. Was Ben McAdoo. Joe Judge. 1 year with Pat Shermer. He was hurt a lot of times. He almost got killed, basically every season.
Yeah.
He's been hit more than any other quarterback in the league this year. So all I'm saying is this, man. All I'm saying is this. Eventually, I know that everybody, for some crazy reason, loves Brian Daboll. I want to ask you something, Paulie, before I get off. And I know you're going to give me a good answer. I'm going to ask you why you think Brian Daboll is a good head coach. And please, take away the fact that he won Coach of the Year. That's history. And take away that he made the playoffs. Ben McAdoo made the playoffs, and he won 11 games.
Right.
Give me something. Give me something that makes him good head coach, because his record is horrendous. Give me something.
Well, I will tell you this. As someone who is here at practice all the time, was at training camp, and I see what the Giants do, and I see how he handles his team. You have a club here that has fought for him, that has been resilient. For example, in the Steelers game, everybody gave the Giants up for dead when they were down by 2 scores. But then the Giants continued to match the Steelers score for score until the last 2 giveaways, right, which Daniel Jones was responsible for in the final 4 minutes of the game. They kept fighting. They kept going punch for punch with the Steelers. Left cross, right jab, right jab. That is a very good indicator of your coach having the team's back and them having his back. Another really good indicator, okay, is the fact that there's no finger pointing going on in the locker room. Now, I'll give you a great example, Wilson. You've asked for me to come at you with evidence, and I'm going to give it to you. During some of these previous coaches before Brian Daboll got in here, and I'm not going to name names, although you could figure out some of them because some of them actually came out in public and did it. They finger point. They don't take blame. They don't take accountability, and they don't take responsibility. When you have a bad coach, that stuff happens. It happened under McAdoo. It happened under Shermer. It happened under Judge. You had some players going rogue, not being disciplined, not following the game plan, not being responsible to their teammates or to their coaching staff. That stuff is the poison that makes you feel you need to clean out the toxin. None of that stuff is happening under Brian Daboll. None of it. There is no finger pointing going on. The team leaders are in their positions in the locker room with authority, with respect, and they're taking care of business in that locker room. And you don't see offense criticizing defense or defense criticizing offense or whatever the case may be. Obviously, in this case, the offense is the one that's been suffering, so it would only be one way. It would be defense against offense. But you also didn't see anybody criticize the special teams when they gave up the punt return for the touchdown, albeit there could have easily been a flag, offsetting penalties, and a re-kick. Again, I'm going to leave that alone. I need to hold my water on that, Pearson. I really need to hold my water on that one. But that's not happening. None of that stuff is happening. And as far as the play calling on the field, here's what I want to give you. The Giants have 25 drop passes so far this season. 25. 10 of them were on third down. 11 of the 25 passes were beyond the sticks and would have been first down conversions. 11 of the 25 drop passes. And I don't think I need to tell you, because you folks have been watching these games, and Wilson, I know you're watching. Many of those 11 potential first down drops were at the most critical times of the games. Key moments where the Giants this season have been probably the most unclutched team in the National Football League. That's not Brian Daboll's fault. Okay? Just like it's not Daniel Jones's fault. And I'm so glad, Wilson, as John enters the picture.
Thank you for relief pitching
no
for
trouble
me.
at all.
I hope you did a much better job than Tommy Canley did last night.
Do we really want to go there? The point being, Wilson actually came on and was absolving some of the stuff that's being thrown at Daniel Jones, saying it's not all his fault.
Well, it's not all his fault.
And it's obviously not all his fault. So Wilson, I applaud you for at least your take on Daniel Jones. I don't agree with you on your Brian Daboll point, and I hope that the evidence I have presented to you allows you to rethink your thoughts on that.
Anything from the coordinators that was interesting? But I wasn't out there for that. Sorry, folks. I was in like a muckety-muck radio meeting I had to be involved in.
Nothing awesome. Bowen, as I already told the folks, said full confidence in Banks. He's already bounced back once before against Seattle. He's already focused and locked in, and they feel really good about him this week. That was probably the biggest thing that came out of the coordinators today.
Okay, that's good. Well, they're gonna need him this week because Terry McLaurin's really good. So,
and as Bowen did admit, there seems to be more of a Daniels-McLaurin connection in recent weeks as they build and grow on their passing game, which obviously signifies danger for anybody who slacks off against that combination.
All right, so you know what we've done so far, Paul, so why don't you just lead the way here, and I will sidekick for you for the next 45 minutes or so.
All right. Well, actually, we're going to go to Coach Marvin in Delaware at 201-939-4513. Coach, always good to talk to you.
How you doing, Paul and John?
Hi, Coach.
How you doing?
We're trying. We're trying, Coach. That's all I can say.
Last night was a rough night, man. I was in that building. It sucked. It was terrible. I don't know what else to say about it.
Sloppiness for the Yankees, sloppiness for the Giants. We've seen a lot of that in New York these days.
Yeah.
Throw the Jets into that conversation.
Yeah, as well. No doubt.
Five unearned runs. It just killed me last night. I just couldn't. I couldn't even watch the end. I didn't want to see the celebration part, so I didn't see the whole thing. I was just listening to the call a few minutes ago about Daboll. The question I have for Wilson: when was the last time he liked the coach?
Probably 2011, right, John?
Coach, unfortunately, look, and I always say this: when things are going bad, fans, I understand why. It is not just this for the Giants; it's for all sports. They look for silver bullet solutions, and the easiest silver bullet solution to a team's problem is to change the coach, and it's going to make everything better.
Or the quarterback.
Well, that's number two.
Yeah.
Once you change the coach and that doesn't work, then you try to find the most important player, and then you change that person out. It was the same thing with the Knicks in the 90s, right? First, you fire Don Nelson. Van Gundy comes in, doesn't work. Well, then Patrick Ewing's the problem. So then you got to move on from Ewing, right? And it doesn't necessarily work that way.
Well, the Jets are trying that strategy.
Correct. Right, no, 100%.
Indeed.
Pearson, you are 1,000% right. They let go to Robert Saleh. It didn't work. And now what are all the Jet fans saying? Well, the quarterback's not good enough. Like, by the way, it might be true in this instance, the way he's playing, but that's the order. And then once those two don't work, then you fire the general manager. And that's usually the order that fans go in as they try to solve problems for teams. It's coach, star player, then you get to the management, which is number 3 on the list. And it's like that for every sport, every team. It's just the way the fan bases operate.
Yeah, you got to remember, Daboll, to make a statement that they quit. I don't know what they're watching. That's a tough statement.
No, they haven't quit.
Coach, anybody who watched that Pittsburgh game knows that the week before, when the Jets got thrashed, that wasn't much of a battle in the second half. The Giants were right in that sucker until the 4 minutes to go, and even then, they had 2 more chances.
Right. They got caught in some situation. Right now, they're not playing good situational football.
Mm-hmm.
They get there and there's a holding. There's a false start. There's a pick play. I mean, anything. And when I used to, if I had a team that was doing that, because I came up as an adult under discipline, being my years in the military and being my years in the Department of Justice. Everything is based on discipline. And in the way they teach you, we all work together, regardless of our race, our religion, what your finances are. It didn't matter. We all work together. And that's why I tried to implement into my teams that you guys have to work together. And it's just sad sometimes to see that happen. I don't know what they can do to stop it, but they have to concentrate when they get down there. I don't care what it takes. Go back to Little League if you have to. I'm at youth football. And you get in the huddle and you just say, hey, no penalty.
Coach, I got to ask you a separate question on the other issue that's befuddled the Giants, and that's the drop passes. Okay, I had 5 the other night against the Steelers, which brings the total to 25. Now, in the past, what have I seen coaches do? I've seen coaches make them work more on the jugs machine, the jugs gun.
Yeah.
I have seen coaches say, well, use the gloves or don't use the gloves or change the gloves. I've seen them do that. I don't know that I have any other way to improve the catching numbers. But the drops have really hurt this team dramatically. Do you have a secret solution to eliminate drops?
I don't know if it's a secret solution. And sometimes it is your work ethic. Sometimes it's concentration. Maybe it's something they're not doing when that ball comes. They're looking to run. And in some cases, it's a little bit of both, Paul. Wilson can be right, and he can be, and it can go the other way too. The drops are a problem, but also when you talk about Daniel, quarterbacks are good. John talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago. Quarterbacks are going to get a lot of blame, and they're going to get a lot of praise in games because they're the ones that's holding the ball. But ball placement does play a role when you drop balls. And the one he was talking about with Neighbors was going across the middle, the ball was thrown a little bit behind him.
What, on the slant in this last week?
Yeah, if you go back, I don't know. It was
maybe,
Coach Marvin.
It hit him in like his left thigh. I mean, it wasn't off his body; it was on his body. Still.
Right.
But he was running across the field, and it's on.
Got to catch it, Coach.
Yeah, that one you got to catch.
Got to catch it. And the bomb down the sideline was right in his hands. Couldn't have dropped it in the bucket any better.
Hey, look, and guys, I thought Tiki Barber a couple days ago had and now FAN put this up there on their social media channels. I thought he had a little rant about this because Tommy Lugauer, who's I think the board op on that show, was killing Neighbors for all the drops, right? Mm-hmm. And Tiki goes, well, this isn't about Malik Neighbors. This is about rookies. I hated rookies when I was in the NFL. Do you know why? They're stupid. They don't know anything, but a lot of them think that they do. And again, we're talking about Neighbors specifically. He's talking about all rookies, right? They don't know what it takes to be great, the work that it takes to be great. He goes, the only rookie that I was ever with as a rookie that I thought was worth anything that could help the team was Jeremy Shockey. He came in and thought he was ready to play right away.
Did he really say that?
Yes, he did. He said, and every other rookie that I was with, when they were rookies, you could not count on them or trust them because they didn't know any better. And it's not their fault. That's just the nature of what rookies are when they come into the league because they don't get it yet.
You know what's interesting?
And that was I've never heard a former player say it quite like that. And I thought it was, and again, this isn't him saying Malik Neighbors is an issue or a problem, and those things specifically apply to him. He was talking about rookies in general, and I thought I've never heard a player verbalize it quite that way before, which I thought was interesting.
Well, Neighbors is being asked to do an inordinate amount to carry the bulk of the explosiveness of this offense on his shoulders. That is a big responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Coach.
I can't agree with that. I mean, how do you explain Randy Moss? How do you explain Odell Beckham? How do you explain these guys that came out as rookies?
No, Coach, there are some exceptions to the rule, but Tiki's point is that they're exceptions. They are not the rule.
But I thought I heard you say he ate all rookies.
But then he said all the rookies that he played with, except for one. He said Jeremy Shockey. So he had an exception to his rule as well. So obviously there are going to be exceptions elsewhere as well.
Right. I coached as an assistant under a head coach that was like that in high school, and they believed in not playing freshmen. I didn't believe that. I believe the best person plays, and that's just the way I felt.
Coach, and the best person should play, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get rookie mistakes out of them, which I think is what Tiki's point was.
But we get mistakes out of veterans too.
Well, that's true. That's fair.
And you know what's interesting, Coach? And someone brought this up to me last night as well. Puka Nacua had 13 drops last year for the Rams.
I think he had the second most in the league, right?
Yeah, and but the difference is he caught 105.
A lot of targets.
So, But 13 drops, I mean, I've always told people about 6% is where that's the kind of, I don't want to say the word acceptable, but you can digest if a receiver has a 6% drop rate compared to his catch rate.
And look, the problem
So that means 6 every 100.
And the problem with Neighbors, just to give you an example, you said you have 24 drops on the year for the Giants?
25.
All right, PFF is 22. So you guys are in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They had Neighbors for 4 drops this year.
I have 6.
Here's the problem. However you want to count them, they've all come in critical situations. That's the problem.
Yeah, no doubt.
It is. It's no doubt, John. That's true. And again, I'm not passing it on that they shouldn't make these catches because they're hitting them in their hands and they can't. But it goes both ways. They both are at fault. Troy Aikman said it, that it was a play where Slayton was on the sideline. The corner was playing underneath him.
Yeah, cover 2.
And when he went, that ball was thrown too late. Troy Aikman stated he's waiting for guys to get open to throw it. You got to time that right. That's all I'm saying.
No, Coach, that's fair.
What I thought it got to be on time. I know I only got a short time left.
Yeah, real fast.
I got 2 more things. One, real quick. They brought a left tackle in off a practice squad. My question is, where's Neal? If he's not good enough to beat out a practice squad guy, maybe we ought to look at trading him because I don't know if I could take that as a person.
Coach, Chris Hubbard's been in the NFL for about a decade now. He's not, I mean, I know he came off the Niners practice squad, but he is an experienced NFL veteran who's played, I believe, 3 different positions, maybe even 4 on the line in the NFL before. So he's not your typical practice squad guy fresh out of the box.
I have 2 things for you on that. One, Evan Neal right now is a right tackle. He's not an offensive lineman. He's not a potential guard. He's not a left tackle. Right now, Evan Neal plays one position. It's right tackle. You can agree or disagree with that, and I think there are good arguments to both, and that's fair, Coach.
Right.
But
that's fair. You're fair, John. And again, I'm never going to.
That's the deal.
Wrong. I'm just saying I don't agree.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. All right, what's your last point?
My last one is because this is being listened to by the players. I have a fullback by the name of Anthony Bazzato. I had a tailback by the name of Adam Cordio, and I'd like to congratulate both of them for going to the Hall of Fame. So
that's awesome.
In our city's Hall of Fame, so I'm so proud of them. And I will be there to attend the ceremony.
Well, that's great, Coach.
Thumbs up, Coach.
Appreciate the call, Coach.
Good stuff.
And look, guys, I understand the frustration of Evan Neal. We're frustrated too. And I've had a couple people say, well, then they should just trade him. Let me ask you something. If you, what are you getting, like a pick swap?
I mean,
like, and I'm not talking like a 3 for a 6. I'm talking like a 6 for a 7, like something like that. Like, guys,
his value, if they can ever get him on track to the point where he can play again and do what he was expected to do, is going to be much greater to the Giants than it is anybody else.
Oh, took the words out of my mouth. As I mumbled and stumbled, that's what I was trying to get
I was trying to help.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. No, you're right. And they know what he needs to do to get better and be ready to play, and they're going to try to rehabilitate him that way. I mean, look, Cam Robinson just got traded. He started a million games in this league. What did they get, a 6th-round pick for him?
Mm-hmm. I know. I saw that the other day. Was it yesterday?
And Deontay Johnson, that was a pick swap too, like a 5 for a 6, and he's a good wide receiver.
Yeah. Oh,
like teams
no
are
doubt.
just not throwing draft picks around.
No.
Like, That's not. That's why other people are like, oh, well, Darius Slayton has used Ojulari for agents after the season. Why don't you trade them? Well, would you rather lose the chance to potentially re-sign both those guys? And look, you need as many good players as you can get, and both of them play an important position. Wide receiver is a premium position, and again, you have to get them at the right value. And as I've said here, and I think on Giants.com, Ojulari was kind of like my surprise player for the team this year, because I've always believed if he stayed healthy, I think he's a better pure pass rusher even than Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, I think what we've seen, Kayvon's better at other things, right? I think he's better at setting the edge. He's better at the run. He's probably a better all-around player. But in terms of like pure outside speed, pass rush, bend the edge, that's what Ojulari is good at, and he's really good at it when he's healthy. But again, you have to factor in the injury stuff. So is it worth potentially not bringing him back to get a late day 3 pick for him in some kind of trade?
No.
When you can theoretically, depending on how the offseason goes, you might be able to get a comp pick too, depending on how your losses and gains go in free agency. Now, they have a lot of cap space this offseason, Paul.
Yeah.
So I think the chances of getting comp picks probably is not great, because you're probably going to bring in more guys than you lose.
I think if they can get a reasonable number on Ojulari, you want him back.
And now people say,
as your third edge guy?
but people are like, oh, he's not even a starter. So you need 3 good edge players. You don't think the Dallas Cowboys right now are missing Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler? Who you're going to see this week with the Commanders, who they pay decent money to? You need third and fourth edge rushers, especially a third one.
Absolutely.
These guys can't. Guys, think about it. If Burns and Thibodeau both play 80% of the snaps, all right, and that's high, okay? Let's say you even
75.
Let's go 75. Do you know how many snaps your third edge rusher's playing? 50%.
That's right.
It's only like 20 snaps less than the other two guys. It's important to have a good third edge rusher. Now, the Giants medical folks are going to know what his medical deal is and whether or not they have faith that he's going to be able to stay healthy
So far,
for a
so
long
good
time.
this year.
But this year it's been good. So, look, that's a decision they're going to have to make. But, rolling back some type of like late day 3 pick, that doesn't do it for me.
He's a player
Just saying.
who, even though he had that really flashy rookie season, it's been checkered, primarily because of injury, but it's been checkered. And now here in year 4, he has resuscitated his value, and he has had a breakout season.
And again, with Slayton, you see now he has had too many drops this year too, but that's been a traditional issue for him. We know that. How much more valuable is he as your second or third best guy and not your best guy?
Mm-hmm.
And he's right now their third most targeted wide receiver behind Neighbors and Robinson.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all right, he's your chunk play guy. All right? He's not a guy you're peppering with a bunch of 7-yard throws, but you need a 30-yard throw down the field, run Slayton on the little skinny post, run him over the top deep. Like that's why he was drafted. That was a skill set coming out of college. So you're actually now using him to his strengths. Now, obviously, you put a price tag on that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you say, all right, well, that skill set and that role is worth X amount of dollars to me. And if you can make the deal work in that parameter, you go and you do it. And if you can't, you can't. But there's certainly value there, is all I'm
People
saying.
keep forgetting that Slayton, for his career, is averaging 15 yards a catch. Is there anybody else on this team that's coming close to that?
Correct.
No.
So, and again, I think, we're not talking second and third round picks here. Like they got for Leonard Williams last year. That's not what we're talking about here.
No.
201-939-4513. Paul, why don't you go take us back to the phones?
Okay, Rich in Virginia. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hi, Rich.
Hi, guys. As Len from Columbia, Maryland would say, well, sorry about our Yankees. That's very disappointing. But thinking positive, they got there. So it's on to next year. But my question is, have you all heard, I have not heard anything from Brian Dable or any of the coaches. What was the rationale for that 2-point conversion? Besides the execution, why go for 2?
Okay, Rich, I will happily, and I should have done this on the post-game show on Sunday. I didn't have a chance. So, by the way, this from Matt Sytak today. Say, Chiron Chasey has progressed in the concussion protocol, will be in a red non-contact uniform at today's practice.
That's very good.
So that's good news, especially just
Very
2
good.
days off of the concussion on a Monday night.
Very good.
That's very good. And he said everyone will practice at some capacity other than Bryce Ford Wheaton and Jamie Gillen. Barring a setback, Adoree Jackson should be good to go for Sunday's game against the Commanders. So that's the update on the injuries really quick. Good job, Sytak, getting that in for us from outside. Here's the theory on that, Rich, and I'll try to explain this using game theory for those of you that know what game theory is. So if you kick to if you let if you're down 2 scores, you kick 2 extra points, you have like a 95% chance of tying the game, right? Because you take in consideration the chance you could miss an extra point, have it blocked. You give me a 95% chance of tying the game. And let's say in overtime you have 50% chance of winning the game, right? So you're looking at a 50-50 chance win or lose in that situation if you go to overtime, okay?
Right.
So that's your 50-50 shot. Now, if you go for 2, if you make your first 2-point conversion and then you score another touchdown, you win. So let's say
you're up.
Yeah,
you're up.
Right. So let's say you have a 50-50 chance of making a 2-point conversion, just to make the math equal. Let's say it's a 50-50 play.
Okay.
So you're at 50% chance of winning the game outright with the 2-point conversion versus a 50% chance of then having your next possession, all right? So you already matched your win probability from kicking the extra point by going for 2. You're already at 50%. All right, now you just missed your first 2-point conversion like the Giants did, and you have to score another touchdown, okay? When you go and you do that again, you're going to go for 2 again. You have a 50% of making that 2-point conversion. So that gives you a 25% chance of losing outright, right, if you miss both 2-point conversions. But if you make that second 2-point conversion, all right, then you go into overtime.
Correct.
So then you have another 50-50 chance of winning or losing.
Correct.
So if you kick the extra point both times, you have a 50-50 chance of winning or losing based on the overtime result. But if you go for 2 both times, you actually have around a 63% chance of winning and a 38% chance of losing if winning or losing in overtime or making a 2-point conversion are 50-50 plays. So that's the best way to explain, Rich, of why you go for 2 there. It gives you a better it gives you a better chance of winning the game. You have a larger chance of losing outright in regulation, but you take some of the random probability of overtime out of the equation that way. I think hopefully I explained that well enough for you to understand.
That's the numbers answer, and I appreciate that. I'm big on emotion, mentality, momentum, all that other kind of stuff. And that's why I'm not big on going for 2s earlier than when you actually need them, because I do think that there is a certain amount of intangibles when a team stops you that you lose a little bit of that spark and they gain some. That's the way I usually approach those.
Well, I got to make this comment. Thank you, John. That was well done. 2 things. I agree with Paul on when to go for 2 from your heart and the head. Number 2 is what you're saying, John, is that 2-point conversion decision was totally based on the analytics.
Yes.
But here's another question. Across the NFL, what's the percentages of a team making a 2-point conversion? I don't think it's that high.
No, you know what? 2-point. You know what? I will look that up, Rich. That is a good question.
Let's both
I
do
think
it.
it's around a 50-50 average, but I will check that for you, Rich.
Okay. Well, and people are going to call it. Like I said, I go back to 1961. You know that. We're not throwing in the towel or tanking or anything like that. But for the fans, us, it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And everybody feels that way. I know John Meyer feels that way. Firing Babes or Joe Shane, not the answer. My concern, though, is when you have 11 penalties, most of which are mental, procedural, plays physical, that's really an issue. You're beating yourself. But anyway, great job as always. Keep the faith. Go Giants.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you,
I appreciate
Rich.
it. Let me see.
NFL teams have succeeded on 31% of 2-point conversions this year.
That's a really small sample size, though. Let me see.
Well, that's only this year. I mean,
Yeah,
you'd
yeah,
have
yeah.
To, if you wanted to get a bigger number, you'd have to go back the previous 3 years, let's say, and come up with what that number was.
This is going back in 2020, the league average, since 2-point conversion started, so that's about a 6-year period, the league average 2-point conversion rate was 48%. That sounds closer to being right to me.
Last year, how about this? Last year, it was 70 out of 127. In 2023, 55% in 2023.
That's high. And
I think so, too.
And that's why you go for 2 there.
I think so, too.
And that's why you go for 2 there.
Again, I tend to believe that heart, soul, guts, a lot of other intangibles would be factored into any decision that I make. But
if-
I see the numbers. I understand.
But if you make that 2-point conversion, your team's rolling then. You're feeling good
I
about
understand the numbers. That's why, I can agree to disagree with folks who lean heavily on analytics because I think it's really what brand of ice cream do you like? What flavor do you like?
As you know, Paul's an emotional fellow, so he allows emotions to get involved in some of his decisions.
By the way,
I did find it funny when you said on Twitter to somebody that day that you try to take emotions out of things, and I'm like, really, Paul?
Well, when it comes down to debates, I try to.
Yes, correct. You're right.
I'm a facts guy.
No, you absolutely are. But you're also an emotional guy, which is which is why we love you. By the way,
I'm Italian.
I know.
That's kind of the definition of emotional.
Yes, that is true.
Folks, we want to remind you, we didn't get to the promos. You want me to read them?
Well, I can tell people
Go to it.
I can tell people what's on the Giants Huddle right now.
What do you got?
So, Papa's perspective is up, correct? So, the Papa's perspective up in the Giants Huddle podcast right now is Bob Robustelli. He is Andy Robustelli's son. He wrote a book about his dad.
I'm aware of that.
The first Pope of the NFL. That's what it was. Thank you. Talking about his dad and his career. There's some really great stories in there from when him and Dick Lynch were together and they hung out all this.
I believe that.
They talk about like playing in right field at Yankee Stadium, like Roger Maris. Like it's crazy.
There's some great stories. Bob Papa talked to him, so that's up there on the Giants Huddle podcast feed right now. Coming up later today, Giants Hangout will pop up there. And if you go back to the one previous to the Papa's perspective, my weekly interview with Brian Baldinger. He was back this week, even though the Giants lost. We felt there was enough about the defense, pass rush we could talk about, Tyrone Tracy. So we talk about a lot of the bad stuff too, and just kind of the frustrating things that the Giants are doing to kind of turn wins into losses, and the way the season's kind of gone. So a really fun conversation with Baldy. We had a lot of fun. It was a good time talking with them on the Giants Huddle podcast. So go check that out, Giants.com, the Giants mobile app, Giants.com/podcast, or just search for Giants Huddle podcast or Giants Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. It'll pop right up.
All right, very cool. Let's go back to the phones, and we've got Roy in Charleston. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Roy.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're great.
How are you?
I'm good. First of all, I was going to ask you, John.
Yes.
You do the post game on WFAN. Last year, you put those episodes on the app. Will you do that again this year? Because I really miss those post game shows that you do.
They are on the Giants Media Pass podcast feed, Roy. So if you go to your podcast platform, subscribe to the Giants Media Pass feed, and all the post game, all the post games should go up on the Media Pass podcast feed.
On Archive, John, or is that live?
Archive.
It's Archive.
Archive, yes.
Live, the
yes.
Giants MSG post game live show on television airs on the Giants mobile app live for 1 hour after the game if you want to do something right away and don't want to wait for the archive.
Yeah, and I think the pre and post game on the radio, I think you can stream that too off of WFAN, because I don't think they geo-target that because it's not the in-game part, and because that's what the NFL kind of has their rules on, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay, because Tim and I in Charleston, we were texting each other trying to get WFAN 2, trying to listen to the game, but it was blank. We couldn't get anything on WFAN
Roy, the problem
2.
is that the NFL has rules. They do not allow teams to stream their local broadcast outside of the local area. So all of that stuff is geo-targeted. So what that means is that if you're out of the television market of the team, they don't want to allow everybody to hear that broadcast, because they want people to subscribe to NFL Plus. They want people to subscribe to Sirius. They want people to listen to Westwood One, where they have their national broadcast of these games. So the NFL, unfortunately, has rules about that, and we're the Giants, so we follow the rules.
Actually, that's a good hint. If the Giants are the Westwood One radio broadcast or the Compass radio network broadcast,
or ESPN, they have
or
national
ESPN's national radio
correct.
broadcast, see if in your area there's an affiliate that might be picking up the national call. And this way you could still listen to the game. It won't be the Giants announcers, but you would get the game anyway as a national call.
Okay. Well, we do have an ESPN radio station here locally. Okay, great. All right, so to my call. Azeez Ojulari was my breakout player this year, and I'm so pleased at the way he is just stepping it up. I see
I mean, he's the guy. I'm so happy for him. And like you said, trading him away is not the smartest thing to do. We need to keep him as best as we can. And I think you're right. I think he's just got. I think his arrow is pointing up. Absolutely. So, now the other question. My question for you was: do you think Daniel, except for that interception at the end of the game, do you think that he improved in last week's game?
From how he played the week before, absolutely. Yes. I think I think he played. This was probably his best game since Seattle. His game yesterday.
I agree.
Okay, and see, that's what I was thinking too, because I did some. I have NFL Plus, and I was able to watch the game, and then I did a little bit of just fast forward through the game, and I thought he was. I mean, he laid that bomb on Slayton, which was just absolutely perfect. But like you said, the one going down the line, he waited, and Troy Aikman mentioned that, you don't wait for that. You throw that sucker.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that Daniels, I think his arrow's pointing up. I think he's progressively getting better after his ACL. So I think I don't think. This is what I think. I don't think, but this is what I think. The damn penalties are killing us, man.
Yeah, they are.
They are just killing us. Had we not had those penalties, like you said, in the most crucial moments of the game, we would have won that game.
Roy, it comes down to the Giants this year have been the most unclutched team in the league, okay? Because their number of penalties, they're like 16th. They're in the middle. Believe it or not, they're not like one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. They're actually in the middle.
I had them tied for 10th fewest, to be honest with you. Yeah.
And I'm talking about the number that were flagged, not taken.
Oh, I got
There's a difference between flagged and accepted.
I got you.
Numbers flagged, I believe they were 16th. I mean, they're smack in the middle. But it's the timing of them and the plays that are lost because of them that are so painful.
And look, and Roy, the way I've kind of said it, and I think I said this 2 days ago, this is like the polar opposite of 2022. Like last year wasn't the polar opposite of 2022. Last year, everyone got hurt, everything went to hell, and they just weren't talented enough to beat anybody. This year, I think they're a more talented team they were in 2022. I think they're a better team. But that 2022 team made every play in big spots that they needed, and this team does the exact opposite.
I completely agree. And once again, the defense is trying to win these games for us, doggone it, and we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. But I do think one thing is that when where was I going here? Penalties. Doggone it. Paul, you and I spoke 2 weeks ago about execution. We've got to execute, and that was just we didn't do it this past week. So
Roy, I mentioned this last night to some folks.
And thank you, Roy. Appreciate the call.
This will surprise you. The Giants have more drops this year than Washington, Dallas, and Philadelphia combined.
Is that true?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Think about that. Is it any wonder they're in fourth place in the division?
Gosh.
None of those other three teams have double digits in drops. They're single digits. The Giants, more than all three combined. At least by the numbers that I saw through Sports Radar. I mean, that's self-destruction at its best.
I'll take a look. Just I'll go off the PFF numbers quickly. The Giants, they have the Giants for 22, the Cowboys for 9, the Commanders for 8, and the Eagles for 5. So they have them exactly the same amount as the three teams combined.
I have 25 for the Giants.
Whatever.
But the point still stands.
Yes, the point stands.
It's absurd.
And right now, PFF has the Giants for the most drops in the league with 22. They have the Jets with 20, with the second most. And then the third most is 18.
So, when we're talking about quarterbacks, one of the things I'd like people to take into account is, how do you think Prescott, Hurts, and Daniels would feel if they had 25 drop passes just by themselves?
Now, look, let's be fair,
Some of it is placement. No, I'm not saying it's not.
100%. And Daniels missed too many deep throws down the field.
He's also missed some, no question.
And I think, what Aikman talked about during the game, being able to anticipate and throw the ball before the guy's open. Mm-hmm. That's the secret sauce and the special skill that makes elite, great NFL quarterbacks. The guys that can see it before it happens, and they're throwing to spots, and the guy's not open, but you're throwing it anyway. Not everyone can do that. That's what separates the creme of the creme from the rest of the guys in the group.
Well,
and you get it out quicker.
Yeah, you get the ball quicker, all this stuff. So that's something that, I think, Paul, we watched Daniel enough. That's something that I think can get better. And by the way, that isn't every play. Like, you do see on comeback routes and stuff like that, he will throw with anticipation.
Yes.
I think it's when things get a little cloudy with multiple defenders in the picture in the middle of the field where it gets a little bit tougher for him. Mm-hmm. But, we've seen balls like those comeback routes and stuff on the sideline where you have isolated one-on-one. He will throw the ball before guys are out of their breaks.
I think what's frustrating is in the 2022 season, I can't tell you how many times he threw frozen ropes right down the center of the field, which is where many coaches a lot of times are going to get nervous because there's traffic.
Kind of like that throw to Theo Johnson in the fourth quarter of that last game where he just put that seam ball right in there. It was
right there.
Great throw.
Right there. And in 2022, he did that a ton. Anyway.
Sorry.
Stephen.
I didn't mean to get on
Stephen in Atlanta.
Tangent there.
Go ahead. You're next on the show.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Hey, John, before I start, I just wanted to say a couple things about your post-game shows. On Audacity, if you use the iPhone or iPad, but if you cannot hear it, they put on their national broadcast. In addition, it's only on the website that you can do it. And I just went on MediaPass, and I can't find any of your post-game stuff, so someone needs to be able to find a search on that one.
I have my producer looking at the post-game.
What?
Yeah, it's...
Come on, Mike, Pearson.
Yeah, it's called...
Yeah,
Pearson, get on Mike. You tell him.
It's Giants Extra Point, and then Giants versus Steelers recap. Hour 45 minutes. John Schmeelk and Jonathan Casillas.
It was hard searching, yeah. I'm just saying it's hard searching. It starts with interviews. It just needs a little organization. That's all I'm pointing out.
Time out. It's on the Giant Media Pass podcast feed. Go to it, and it's listed in the feed. I'm not sure how much better organized they can be.
No, it wasn't. I just looked at it. I'm just saying that's okay. There's several interfaces, but that's okay.
Now I have a question. I have a question real quick. Now you said, are you going to Audacity or are you going to Odyssey? Because those are two different things. Okay, I just want to make sure you go on the right spot.
The Odyssey app does only the national. It doesn't do the local. The only way I can hear you is on using a browser.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that is I think that's another NFL rule where they don't let it on mobile and they only allow it on desktop. I believe that is also a rule, which stinks. Trust me, guys. I would love to have everybody hear all of our post-game stuff and in-game stuff. I think it's great content. I'd love to have it for you. Unfortunately, the league has these rules, man. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to alert other ones on there.
No, I appreciate that.
The browser works. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I just want to give kind of a big picture. I go all the way back to 56, so I could see everything at that point. But I really want to say I think this whole thread started with, and it goes back to the owner on here, when they chose to fire Tom Coughlin as opposed to Jerry Reese. And then we went with the new coach, and then we benched Eli on here. That starts all of that stuff. I think there was time that Eli still had left in him, and they could have worked that out. And I think Gettleman was really doing that in the beginning, and I think that's why he chose Saquon. Saquon was a great player, but he was the wrong choice for being the second pick. It's hurt us since that time. He would have been great if we had a team ready for a running back at that point.
Look, real quick, just to comment on those two things. I think what you learned is that keep the coach and the GM together, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you move on from one, move on from the other, right? So if you're going to keep both, keep both. If you move on from one, move on from both, and you don't want to separate those two because then things can get a little bit messy. I'm with you on that. And I think with the Saquon thing and the Eli decision, I know fans don't want to believe this. Gettleman was given freedom to decide whether or not he wanted to bring Eli back or not. He decided it was a good idea. The problem is that just one season after he made that decision, he changed his mind. So if you're going to make that decision that you're sticking with Eli, it can't just be for a year, right? You can't do it for a year and
I
then
agree.
decide 3 games into the next year to pull the plug. Like, that's one of those deals where that changes your strategy, that changes how you draft, that changes everything how you're going about your business, and that will set your franchise back when you make decisions like that at the quarterback position.
Yeah, midstream is always a dangerous time to start reevaluating. It really is.
Yeah, but as you go on from there, I'm also going to say basically with Shermer, they should have fired the defensive coach. That was the problem. He was connecting with Daniel that first year. Daniel was really good on that, other than his drops, his fumbles overall out there. So, that again was another decision going forward.
I think, and I'll say this, I think Shermer as an offensive coordinator was actually pretty good, the way he called plays and put the offense together. But there were things with the head coaching part of that equation that I don't want to get into details on it.
No.
That's
fine.
It was time to make a move.
Some people are just really, really great coordinators. And for whatever the variety of reasons are, they don't make great head coaches. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I agree. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying when we look at our path where we're going, I'm not criticizing anything. I'm just making an observation on this one right now. But, as we've gone on here, I think that Shane's first draft was not a very good draft. I think it was poor overall. And it was an overreach on Neal. I don't think, since he never tested, that was, to me, a red flag. And I think it's proven out, but we'll see as it goes forward.
I think looking back with hindsight, and I've said this before on the show, you've heard me say it, that looking back, that's where I should have raised a little bit of a red flag, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But look, when I evaluated their tape, Neal was my 3rd or 4th best player in the draft class, and Thibodeau, I think, was right in front of him or right behind him. I can go back and look at my rankings, and I think consensus, both guys were top 5 players from most analysts in the draft.
Yeah, they were. I personally, looking at it, I had Cross higher on there, but that's.
Look, Cross, and we talked about at the time. Cross had better feet and was a better pass protector at the time. He was, but he didn't run block. He was in a college system, and there wasn't a ton of evidence that Evan Neal couldn't pass block coming out of school. Like, I went back and I looked at it again last offseason, and there wasn't a ton there that made you really nervous about it, and you saw athletic things from him that made you feel good about it. And the other thing I'll say about that draft, Paul, can you bring up that, just not the Giants draft class, but the draft itself?
Yeah, sure.
The full draft results. I think when we go back and we look back at the 2022 NFL draft, our conversation is that, generally speaking, guys, it was not a very good draft. You get by the first 4 picks. You had Trevon Walker, who's turned out to be a good, not great player. I put him in the same type of categories as Thibodeau, right? I think they've probably been similar.
Good player.
Yeah, I think they've been
not
similar.
an impact guy though for number 1 overall.
Aiden Hutchinson at 2 has been awesome.
Yep.
Derek Stingley, when healthy, has been really good. Sauce Gardner, when he's been healthy, has been awesome. Those are the guys picked before Thibodeau. Paul and I will both tell you that the Giants were going to pick Sauce Gardner if he was there. That was going to be their pick if he was on the board. And then once you get past Thibodeau, Ike Ekwonu hasn't worked out.
No, I agree.
The 2 wide receivers were good, Drake London and Olave. The Giants were not picking a wide receiver that year, though, based on how they were structured.
Of course, was terrific.
Jameson Williams hasn't been great. Jordan Davis hasn't necessarily worked out. Kyle Hamilton is a safety. You're not picking him 5th or 6th. Kenyon Green's been a disaster. Jahan Dotson hasn't been good. Zion Johnson hasn't been good. Treylon Burks hasn't been good. Trevor Penning hasn't been good. Just overall, after you get past those first handful of picks,
it was not a
very good draft, which I know is an excuse. Is not an excuse. You got to find good players. You got to pick good ones. I get it. There's always good players in every draft. But when you look back at it, that is not going to be a stellar overall first-round draft class.
I still have to take exception, though, with what you said, because 9 of the 11 players that Shane took in 2022 are on the team. Thibodeau.
Well, I hope they're still on the team. It's only their 3rd year in the league, Paul.
Thibodeau is obviously a starter. Neal, we just don't know what's going on with him. Robinson is a starter.
Yeah, but has Robinson been as productive as you want of it?
Well, he was hurt. He blew out his knee.
I understand, but it's still production from the class.
Flott's been hurt a lot. Bellinger's been a solid tight end.
Right.
Belton is a solid number 3 safety.
You missed the
McFadden-
Zudu in there at 3.
I mentioned Azudu quickly.
Oh,
before.
I didn't hear it.
I
I'm
went
sorry.
past
I
him
didn't
right
hear
away. McFadden had 100 tackles last
good.
year, and he
McFadden
starts.
is very good.
You know,
but
McFadden is-
well,
I
you
mean-
could talk about reasons, Paul, though. Like, I think it's fair because of the injuries to Flott, Azudu being hurt early and not working
Robinson.
out, Robinson
blew out his knee.
injuries.
Yes.
Like,
and Neil, freaking got hurt how many times?
Right,
in
no,
his
I
3
understand,
years?
but that's 4 of your
But that's
first
it.
5.
I know, I know.
And again, I'm not saying it's Joe Shane's fault. I'm just saying because
No.
of injuries and other happenstance, you haven't gotten the production you would want out of the class.
I concur with that. That I concur
I agree,
with.
I agree too.
You
I
could
agree
say the
completely
production
with you.
hasn't been what you expected or what you wanted, but you can't just say he had a bad draft. That's a different comment.
and that's fair, and that's absolutely fair.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I'll go Smack. It's not been a draft that really is building a foundation.
Certainly
for
hasn't fulfilled
either.
potential. Let's put it that way. I think that's
It-
also
it
a fair
still
way
is-
to say it.
Yeah, it still needs yet to be evaluated that way. I think the second draft got better overall out there. He's done better, and I'm also commenting because I see these on X and other stuff. You know, people are really chastising everything. But this draft is solid. So if you look at a direction, we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
On here. So I like where we're going with everything from that standpoint. And I
Awesome.
do agree with you. That I really think keep the combination together, general manager and coach. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now coming with Daniel, I go with Daniel Jeremiah's description. Are you a tractor or are you a trailer? And I consider Daniel now. I used to think he might have been a tractor, but he's a trailer. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't build around, but you have to have a team around him. He is not going to take us in the clutch. He is not going to do that.
You got anything else you want to say?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
That's what happens when the Yankees season is over, folks, because both of us are hurting over that as well.
I have to go do some trick-or-treating.
Yes.
My
Enjoy
daughter's
the
ready to
candy.
go. She has a little Rapunzel costume going. With
Very
like,
nice.
Like the wig, the whole thing. She's very excited.
I hope you guys have a wonderful time.
Are you
And
proud
folks,
of me? I didn't talk Yankees at all.
Just go away.
Hell of a win by the Pacers last night, beating the Celtics in overtime, by the way.
Knicks,
Good job,
baby.
It
Pacers.
was a good game.
Knicks crushed the Heat, 44 for Towns.
I know.
Nice.
About time they got us some shots, by the way.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Campaign had as many shots as he did in the third game.
Folks,
Someone around the
Be
first.
nice to John. If you see him out there with his daughter, give him a piece of candy too. He could use it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, you know, as you can speak as a parent, the whole key here is making sure the kids grab, like, because a lot of times you have the bowl and you can pick what candy you want. You got to make sure they pick the right candy.
Yes.
So eventually you can steal some and they
Without
have
a doubt.
good stuff that you like. That's what it's all about.
That'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. We're here every weekday from 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time till 1:30, 201-939-4513. Jot down the number. It is Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We will see you tomorrow.